Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. Adada khalqihi wa rida nafsihi wa zinatul arshihi wa midad kalimatihi wa muntaha ilmihi wa jami'a ma sha'a wa khalaqa wa dhara wa bara. Alim al-ghayb wa shahadatul rahman ar-rahim. Al-malik al-qudus al-aziz al-hakim. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Lahul mulk wa lahul hamd, yuhyi wa yumit, biyadihi al-khayr, wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Arsalahu bil huda wa dinil haqq, liyudhhirahu ala dini kullihi, walau kariha al-mushrikun. Amma ba'd. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أوصيكم بتقوى الله. أوصيكم بتقوى الله. وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قل آمنت بالله ثم استقم قل آمنت بالله ثم استقم. Alhamdulillah, we praise Allah, the Lord of the worlds. We send peace and blessings upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and upon his family and his companions. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for blessing us with another Jumu'ah, another week to return and to revive our spirits, another opportunity to celebrate the weekly Eid, the weekly celebration on the best day that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has established for mankind. Alhamdulillah. And Sufyan ibn Abdullah al-Thaqafi قال قلت يا رسول الله قل لي في الإسلام قولا لا أسأل عنه. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قل آمنت بالله ثم استقم. رواه مسلم. The messenger of Sufyan ibn Abdullah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said to the messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, tell me something about Islam that I don't have to ask anyone else after you. Tell me a word about Islam that I don't have to ask anyone else after you. And the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said to him, say, I believe in Allah, and then be upright, or then be steadfast. قل آمنت بالله ثم استقم. In other words, say that you believe in Allah and then act accordingly. Put another way, say that you believe in Allah, say I believe in Allah, and then be a good Muslim. Make your statements, make your heart and your actions all consistent with one another. say, I believe in Allah, and then be upright. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ورضي الله تعالى عن سادة التابعين وعلماء العاملين وأئمة الأربعة المجتهدين ومقلدهم إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد يا إخوان, I advise you as a messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam advised us all to have fearful awareness of Allah. Taqillah. Fear Allah Azza wa Jal, the mighty and majestic. Alhamdulillah, one of the things that I see consistent with us in general is the fact that many times our knowledge or our words are not consistent with our application. Many times our knowledge or our speech is not consistent with our application. And we can find many examples of this. For a lot of us, that transition doesn't seem to come easy. When we see something written in a book, or in the Quran, or in the Hadith, we read it, we understand it, but when that situation appears in our real life, our actions are not consistent with what we read. Hey, Binky. Yeah. That's Imām Binky right there. Our actions are not consistent with what we know. And there are many examples of this. Many, many examples of this. But there are certain character traits that we should all embody and we should all work on. In this regard, the hadith we mentioned in the first khutbah, the scholars have mentioned 15 character traits of uprightness. Ibn Abdul in his book Kitab al-Hidayah al-Abid, and these characteristics were mentioned there, and they were organized by Imam Ghazali in his book Al-Minhaj. And he specifies 15 ways or 15 character traits that we should have with regards to being upright. And these things were mentioned by Sheikh Uthman Ibn Muhammad, known as Dan Fodio, in his book Usul al-Wilaya. And in fact, he took these 15 things and made an entire independent book out of it called Tariq al-Jannah, The Path to Paradise. And he says, أول العلم وهو مقدار ما يتعين عليه في فن أصول الدين والفقه والتصوف. He says that the first of these things is ilm, knowledge, which includes that which has been made obligatory upon the individual. So in other words, as Muslims, there's a baseline, there's a minimum level of knowledge that every Muslim must have. When we talk about knowledge, or more specifically when I'm speaking about knowledge, I'm never talking about being a scholar. I'm not a scholar. A lot of people nowadays assume that when we talk about seeking knowledge, we are talking about trying to become a scholar. This is not what's being said. Being intelligent and having some level of knowledge used to be synonymous with being Muslim. But now we've reached a stage in a time where knowledge is almost like reserved for the people who are trying to be scholars. But that's not Islamic. Every Muslim has to have a baseline level of knowledge. And if you ask me what that baseline is, it's very simple. Anything that Allah commanded you to do or commanded you to stay away from, you have to have a minimum level of knowledge to know how to do that thing properly and how to stay away from that thing. Very simple. And so he said these things with regards to usuluddin, which means the proper belief. We don't have to become aqidah experts, but we have to know enough to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala properly. We have to know enough to believe in the prophets and messengers properly. We have to know enough to believe in those unseen things properly. And we're living in a society, even if you take out the non-Muslims, even if you pretend that they have no effect on us, and they do, but even if you take them out, and you just look at all of us who claim to be Muslims, or all of us who self-identify as Muslims, many of us, when we embrace Islam, we pick up faulty beliefs from other Muslims. A lot of us, a'udhu billah, are involved in anthropomorphism. We give Allah human character traits. We've been swindled and misled and bamboozled into believing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a body. And that He's in a place. He's in heaven. Or He's above heaven. A lot of us have these beliefs. That's not Islamic. But a lot of us believe these things. And so not only do we have to learn the proper Islamic belief, but we also have to identify un-Islamic beliefs that we have taken in unknowingly. And it's not our fault. We didn't know. We just know what somebody taught us. And then he said, well, fiqh, which means the outward practice. We're talking about tahara, purification, prayer, fasting, hajj, anything that you're doing. Like if you're married, buying marriage and divorce. If you're in business, business. You could be involved in doing some business and you insist on being ignorant of proper business practice, and you could be bringing in halal money into your life. Haram money into your life. So you take the money from your business practice or from your job, and you're not concerned with halal and haram. And so the money is haram because maybe something or some aspect of your job is haram. So that money is haram. And then you go to the halal food store with that haram money and buy halal food. That makes your food haram. And it just goes on and on and on and on. Ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is not praiseworthy. You don't have to be a scholar, but you need to know the bare minimum to make sure that what you're doing is right. And tasawwuf, those spiritual matters. Or those things that a lot of us have been taught to hate. They say Sufi. He's a Sufi. Like if that's a sin. If you're a Muslim, you're supposed to be a Sufi. Islam didn't just come with outward stuff. It came with inward stuff too. The affairs of the heart. But again, the same people who taught us bad beliefs about Allah also taught us that a Sufi is someone who's worshipped someone in the grave. A Sufi is someone who does things other than what the Prophet ﷺ told us. We've been lied to. And so this is one of the reasons why a lot of us ignore the affairs of the heart. We dress like Muslims. We talk like Muslims. We have the external aspect of the Muslims. But internally, our hearts are corrupt. We're full of ujr, which means conceit. We're impressed with ourselves. We think we're all of that. We're amazed with ourselves. We're full of kibr, arrogance. We think we're better than someone. And we reject and turn away from the truth if it goes against our nafs. We're full of ghadab al-batin, unjust anger. When we should get angry, we don't get angry. And when we shouldn't get angry, we get angry. A lot of us, we're full of hubb al-mal, love of wealth. There's nothing wrong with getting money. There's no piety in poverty. But a lot of us, we have it in our hearts. The scholars say that it's nothing wrong, because a lot of us was misled on that too. A lot of us think it's sinful to have money. A lot of us think it's sinful to be rich. And you can tell, because if someone comes around us and they have money, or they're known to have money, we kind of side-eye them. Thank you, all that. That's really the result of our blameworthy characteristics of the heart a lot of times. Another one, which is hasad, jealousy, envy. You tricked yourself into believing that there's piety in poverty, but yet you're jealous of him because he got money. So we should be actively purifying our hearts of these things. And just like when you go to the medical doctor, when you go to the hospital or you have some type of sickness, depending on what the sickness is, you can treat yourself. Even if you have a major sickness, before you get to the doctor, you try your best to treat yourself. You give yourself first aid. But at some point, you go to the hospital. You go to the urgent care. You go somewhere where a professional can diagnose you. And a professional can give you the proper medicine and give you the proper advice on how to rectify your sickness. It's the same thing with the heart. It's the exact same thing with the heart. So our heart has to be purified of these blameworthy characteristics, and I only mention about a handful of them. There's a whole lot more. And some of these blameworthy character traits lead to other ones. And at the same time, we have to adorn or decorate or beautify our heart with praiseworthy character traits. Like sabr, contentment. What do we translate as being patient? Being patient doesn't mean sit and do nothing. Being patient means doing what you're supposed to do, and you continue doing it even though you don't see the outcome that you expect from doing it. Having tawakkul ala Allah, having trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Having tafweed, complete reliance, or what they say, free falling. Meaning you do the best thing that you can do, and after that you leave it to Allah. You don't go stressing, I don't know how it's going to turn out. You did the best you can do. Leave the rest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so he mentioned 15 things, and I just wanted to mention the rest of them. Knowledge was just one of them. I just mentioned the rest of them so that we can try and focus on these things and try our best to be better Muslims. He mentioned tawbah, which is repentance. And not only repentance for the sins that occur between yourself and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but a lot of times we have sins that we do, and these sins are against other people. Okay, when you have a sin that you do, and it's not involving anybody else, you're only wronging yourself by doing it, there are ways to rectify it. Number one, tawbah, is that you stop doing it. And also that you have nadama or regret for doing it. You don't sit around and plan on doing it again, right? You really have regret. Think about that thing that you're really embarrassed about. Maybe something you did a long time, and that you pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that nobody ever finds out that you did that thing, right? You try yourself to forget that you did. Think about that thing, and think about how you feel. That's nadama, that's regret. Not the regret where we say, man, astaghfirullah, man, I did that thing, man. And you go tell everybody, oh, man, you know, man, astaghfirullah, man, you know, I did that thing. Oh, you know, by the way, did I tell you, astaghfirullah, man, I did that too. That's not regret. You actually bragging. You just put, astaghfirullah in front of it, right? To make it appear that you regret doing it. But you don't regret, you're telling everybody about it. The thing that you really regret, you're not telling nobody about it. Because you're embarrassed by it. And you wish you never did it. That's regret. And this is what the heart has to have for tawbah to be sincere, or repentance to be sincere. But also, there are certain things that we do to each other. We slander each other. We backbite each other. We hustle each other out of money. We break our promises to each other. All of these things. And we don't know how that affects someone. Maybe you were supposed to meet somebody at a certain place for X, Y, and Z. But the person, he says, you know what? I had something else to do that's really important to me, right? I'll put that off, or maybe I can't even put it off. I just have to cancel it. And there's supposed to be some benefit for me to meet you at a certain place. And then you don't, not only do you not show up, you don't even call anybody to tell people that you're not going to show up. So this person just inconvenienced himself, probably messed up some money, probably made some people mad to meet you, and you don't even have enough respect to tell them that you're not going to be able to make it. We do things like this. We do things like these to each other. We hustle each other out of money. We cause division in people's family. And while we're doing these things, a lot of times we think we have justification for doing it. And then we want to make tawbah. And then when it comes to those sins that involve other people, there's an additional condition of tawbah. It's called raddul madhalim. It's called undoing the act of injustice that you did. If you stole someone's money, you return it to them. If you slander somebody, you go back and tell the truth to everyone that you told it to. You have to try to undo what you did. A lot of us ain't built like that. A lot of us not going to do that. We take the punk way out. When we claim that we want to make tawbah, we don't even get around the person. We know who we did wrong to. We're not stupid. But we'll get on social media, or we'll stand up in a public gathering. Brothers and sisters, I'm about to make Hajj, make dua for me. And by the way, if I wronged anybody, please accept my forgiveness. No, if you wrong someone, you know you wrong him and her. Go to them directly. And undo what you did. So that's the second. The third is zuhud. And zuhud, you can translate as austerity, or, as we said before, doing without. And this has levels. A lot of us don't understand these things. So a lot of us take this concept and we think we can't have nothing. And we think that the one who has something, he's sinful for having money. Oh, brother, you're not zahid. You're not practicing zuhud. There are levels to it, but the essence of it is to have wealth in your hand, meaning physical possession of wealth. Nothing wrong with it. But you can't have physical possession of wealth in your heart. In other words, your heart can't be full of it. That means you yearn for it. You desire it. you lose sleep over it. That's all you think about. It's in your heart. A person can be broke, homeless, and have dunya in his heart. And not be zahid, not practicing zuhud. Zuhud is not about what you have. It's about your heart's attachment to what you have. Or what you don't have either. Zuhud. 4 is uzla anil khalq. Being away from people. In other words, not always trying to be around people. Except during times when there's benefit. Like congregational prayer, like the circles of knowledge, like Jumu'ah, like Eid, like all of these things that are beneficial. Or, a walima, or a wedding, or all of these good things. But if it's not necessary, be by yourself. And a lot of us can't be by ourselves. Because then those demons come up. We need a lot of noise. This is the reality. A lot of us need noise. We need TV, we need radio, we need internet, we need YouTube, or we need physical people going on to distract us from us. We don't want to hear the internal voice. And the reality is this is dangerous. Because sometimes maybe something inside of us is haunting us. That thing needs to come out. We need to let it come out. Don't be scared. Let it come out. A lot of people be having mental breakdowns because they be holding in stuff that need to come out. Let it out. You're ashamed of it, you scared of it, but there's a million other people going through the same thing you're going through. And all of y'all going crazy. Let it out. And this is the state that the Prophet ﷺ was in when he received revelation the first time. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. He wasn't around everybody hanging out in Mecca. He was in a cave by himself. Allah opens up things for you by yourself. So there's a time for this and there's a time for that. There's a time to be around people and there's a time to be by yourself. A lot of times we have it all mixed up. The times when we're supposed to be around people, we don't want to really be around nobody. We run away from those gatherings. And then the times where we should really be focusing on ourselves, we're always around people. The next thing that he mentioned was muharabat al-shaytan. Doing war against the shaitan by means of seeking refuge from him and making proper defenses against him. The 6 is mujahidatu nafs, but doing struggle or making war against yourself. Because guess what? If you don't try to do war or struggle against yourself, your nafs, yourself will team up with shaitan that you're supposed to be fighting against. And they gather together to destroy you. Our nafs, our inner selves, is like an internal enemy. Like that dude you got in your family, he's supposed to be family, but he don't act like family. That's your nafs. You gotta watch him. He don't know where his loyalty lies. Everybody got that person in your organization, in your job, in your family, sometimes even in your marriage, right? The one you married to, you really don't know about him, right? His loyalty ain't there. If you don't control him, he'll team up with the other side. This our nafs. If you keep feeding him, you keep giving him everything he wants, he will team up with shaitan to destroy you. And he's part of you. You can't get rid of him. That's why he said mujahidat, right? Doing struggle against. He didn't say muharaba, like with the shaitan. When you do war against somebody, you try to kill him. You try to wipe him out. Mujahida, when you struggle against something, you really just you're fighting against them, you're trying to control it, and this thing is part of you. Your nafs is you, right? You can't destroy it. You try to control it. You gotta watch it, because you can't trust them. Because the nafs just wants to feel good. The nafs just wants to feel good. Yourself, your nafs, if you ask it for advice, he's not going to advise you regarding that which is best for you. He's going to tell you everything to make him feel good. Should I get something to eat? Yeah, you should get something to eat, even though you're already full, right? Should we go make love? Yeah, we should go make love. You know, should we not pray? Yeah, we shouldn't pray. We should continue to watch TV. That's what your nuts going to tell you. Because all of these things make your nuts feel good. Move up, brothers and sisters. We're almost there. If everyone's sick, facing the Qibla, we'll have room. Number 7 is reliance upon Allah, and we mentioned this. And number 8 is having tafweed, giving matters over to Allah during times of danger. And what does that mean in everyday language? You could be surrounded by your enemies. You by yourself. You can't escape. The only thing you can do is fight, right? What you going to be scared? What you worrying about? You're surrounded. You can't get out. You fight. And whatever happens, happens. There's nothing you can do about it. The 9th is rida, contentment. Contentment with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed for us. We have to be content. In other words, Allah may put something bad on you, right? Number 1, you can handle it because Allah wouldn't have gave it to you if you couldn't handle it. So, with that, when you're in that bad situation, your position is not, I want to get out of this situation. Why does this have to happen to me? Your position is, okay, this is not the situation I want to be in, but may I get all of the rewards for dealing with the situation that I can get. Because every affliction that happens to us, even if it's the pricking of a thorn, is the removal of sins and rewards. So, in other words, we want to maximize the bad situation that we're in. And we're content with what Allah gave us. And then when Allah gives us good, we don't do that false piety. Oh, no, not me. No. Enjoy it. Alhamdulillah, Allah gave this to me. Wasn't always like this. Alhamdulillah. Number 10 is sabr, and we mentioned that earlier. Number 11 is persistence in fear of the punishment of Allah. Khawf. Iltizam al-khawf. Having persistence in the fear of the punishment of Allah at all times. And the 12th is the opposite. Persistence in raja, hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a believer is not all the way over here at hope and not all the way over there at fear. I'm just destroyed. I'm going to hell. There's nothing I can do. That's one extreme. Then the other extreme is, oh man, I can do anything wrong. And Allah is all forgiving, most merciful. No, those are two extremes. You need to be in the middle. The 13th is stay away from showing off. And by, pretending that you're being sincere in front of other people. Do things for the sake of Allah. And the 14th is stay away from showing off. And remember the favors of Allah. Because anything that any of us have to show off about, Allah gave that to us. We didn't give it to ourselves. And likewise, Allah can take it away from us and give it to someone else. And the 15th is being consistent in hamd wa shukr. Praise of Allah and being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with regards to the favors that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given us. And there's a secret in that, because when we have those two character traits, when we have those characteristics, that means that, number 1, we hold down our blessing. In other words, that's the way to keep a blessing. By praising Allah for it and being grateful to Allah for it. That's the way that you tie down and you keep your blessing. You don't lose it. And that's also one of the secrets of making that blessing that you're thankful for increase. You get more of it. And may Allah put these 15 character traits in our character, these inward and outward character states. May He make it part of us, and may Allah make us good Muslims. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam advised Sufyan ibn Abdullah, Qul amantu billah thumma istaqim. That we say that we believe in Allah and that we be upright. We be good Muslims. May Allah make it so. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك ونتوب اليك. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنه وفي الاخره حسنه وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم انت السلام اللهم انت السلام ومنك السلام تبارك يا ذا الجلال والاكرام سبحان ربك رب العزه عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. اقامه الصلاه.